Okay, so I know it has been a bit since I've uploaded, and I'm one day late to the video. But lately I've been playing a game called Fruit Battlegrounds, and I decided to rank the fruits. So let's do that. I'm gonna be ranking them off skill, or like skill required, fun, mobility, speed, just kind of related to mobility. Yeah, it's pretty much mobility, but a bit different. Damage, cooldown, and transformation if they have it. So to start off with barrier. Now, barrier is a common fruit, but it has some pretty good range and it has insane AoE. And because of that, I'm gonna have to put it in D not in D, in C, because it's actually pretty good. I've used it before a lot. I've actually used all of these shirts at least once. But yeah, barrier it's also pretty fun to use, so it's a C. Smoke. Smoke is basically dough, but worse. So it's Smoke's, I think, second move is basically Dough's third move, the Lotus dough combo. There's nothing like that. And it has pretty decent damage, and it's pretty fun to troll people with. But it doesn't have the best mobility, but that doesn't really affect it too much. But it has pretty decent mobility, so it's gonna be in front of barrier. Next up is Chop. Chop car is so fun to use. So just because of that, it's going right in front of barrier. Just because of how fun it is. It doesn't even have the best damage or range, but it's just fun to use. Darkness's cooldowns are bad, and you have to pull in a piece of terrain, so it's horrible for Coliseum 1v1s. So because of that, it goes in D, because it's not fun to use either. Next up is Dragon. Dragon is insane, but it's pretty much carried by its transformation. It's good without it, but it's really good without it, but the transformation just makes it so much better. You would not believe how much better the transformation makes it. But it requires level 165. So because of that, it goes in A. Next up is Flame Fruit. Flame Fruit is basically Dragon, but worse. And it's pretty fun to use, actually, because its final move, which is basically Dragon's final move, but bigger, it's just giant, so it's so fun to just third-party people with, because you can get double kills. Next up is Phoenix. This Phoenix, I wouldn't say it's a no-skill fruit, but I wouldn't say it's a skill fruit either. And it's pretty fun to troll people with. And the transformation doesn't require too much of a high level, I don't think. So Phoenix is a B, but it's behind Flame. Next up is Sand. Why is Sand so good for PvP? It's pretty fun to use, and it's really fun to troll people with. And it has good PvP, so it's in front of barrier. Next up is Rubber. Rubber is time skip Rubber, but worse. Yeah, I know. Rubber, I don't know. Rubber's fun to use, and it has pretty decent damage, but the cooldowns are bad. So it's gonna be in D, but in front of Darkness. Or actually, no, it's just gonna be in the back of C. It's gonna be in the back of C. Next up is Light Fruit. Light Fruit is pretty much only good because of Jewels of Light. But it's fun to use and has good speed, mobility, and damage. So it's right in front of Flame. Next up is Gravity. Gravity is a good trolling fruit. It has good range, good damage, and because it's a trolling fruit, it's fun to use. So, boom, bam, pop. Okay, next up is Ice. Ice is so good for PvP because of its stuns. So because of that, it's going in A. Next up is Quake. Quake would be an automatic S if it it didn't have bad cooldowns. So because of its cooldowns, Quake is going to be an A, but in front of Gravity. Next up is Bomb Fruit. Bomb Fruit is fun to use and it has good speed and mobility. Bomb Fruit is fun to use and it has good mobility. So, but it doesn't have the best damage, but it has decent damage. So it's going to be behind Barrier. Next up is Magma. Magma's AoE is way too good, so it's kind of carried by that, and its burn damage. And because of its burn damage, that's what makes it sit in A tier fruit, right in front of Ice. Next up is Paul. Paul just counters it just counters so many fruits. Paul counters like almost every fruit. I can't even name them, but the main thing is that when I used to main Quake, I would get, oh my gosh, I would try and use a Quake move, and it would just be countered by Paul absolutely every time. And same thing with Gravity. So Paul is an S, but it's in the worst end of S. It's barely an S. Next up is TS Rubber. TS Rubber is, I don't even know. TS Rubber is just a whole different thing. But it's right above Quake. Next up is Doe. Doe has good mobility, insane damage, pretty good cooldowns, and it has, I don't know, it's just good all around. So because of that, it's a top tier S. Actually, you know what? Paul goes behind Dragon. Okay, see you in the next one.